Arch-criminal Netanyahu seeks immunity by squealing on his bosses. Posted on benjaminfulford.net. By Benjamin Fulford. Mass-murdering war criminal and Satan-worshipping Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to reach a plea deal to save his own life by squealing on his Rothschild masters, Mossad sources say. The impending fall of Netanyahu means the final collapse of the Hazarian mafia is now in sight, and it will not be long before the French and Swiss branches of the Rothschild family and their hidden allies are brought to justice. The fall of Netanyahu is just part of the ongoing collapse of Hazarian mob rule, which will remove a whole series of Western leaders, including Emmanuel Macron in France and Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, as we shall see below. First, let us look more closely at Netanyahu's case. Now that on this front, the Israeli police have recommended filing criminal charges against Netanyahu for 3 separate issues, the latest coming last week as part of a media corruption scandal. Until now, Netanyahu has been able to use his position as prime minister to prevent his own prosecution. However, now that he has lost his parliamentary majority, his ability to prevent his own arrest is coming to an end, say Mossad sources. Netanyahu's downfall was precipitated by his quickly defeated offensive against the Gaza Strip, Pentagon sources say. This offensive was aimed at distracting public attention from the murder of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi, the sources say. Instead, however, it backfired as the UN, Russia, Jordan, France, the UK, Egypt, and the US all united against his activities. This will be the final nail in Netanyahu's coffin, the sources say. The fall of Netanyahu comes as an Arabic-speaking Christian, former U.S. Central Command head General John Abizaid, was named as ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Pentagon sources say. This means he will effectively be the military governor who may denuke Israel and partition Saudi Arabia while allying with Turkey, Iraq, and Iran, the sources say. The aim is to put an end to the blasphemous Hazarian mafia plan to rule the world from a greater Israel running from the Euphrates to the Nile, the sources say. Before offering to turn in his Rothschild masters, Netanyahu made a desperate move to get U.S. President Donald Trump to extradite Turkish political activist Fethullah Gulen as a further attempt to distract attention from Netanyahu's role in the murder of Khashoggi, the sources continue. Gulen is believed to be one of the heirs to the Sabahan mafia and is blamed by Turkish President Recep Erdogan for the failed coup attempt against him in 2016. Erdogan is now seeking the extradition of 462 Gulen activists in 83 countries. However, Erdogan now knows his real enemies are Netanyahu, his puppet ruler Mohammed bin Salman, or more likely his body double, of Saudi Arabia, and their Rothschild bosses, according to Mossad and Japanese military intelligence sources. This attempt to distract with Gulen failed spectacularly, and Trump is now being forced to dump losers Bibi, Netanyahu, and MBs in favor of a modus vivendi with Turkey and Iran, the Pentagon sources say. Netanyahu's fall came after a meeting between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in France last week, the Pentagon sources say. This meeting resulted in the selection of Russian Major General Alexander Prokochuk as the new head of Interpol, they say. Prokochuk will be aided by U.S. intelligence to issue more red notices to take down Israeli assets and cabal agents worldwide, they add. In the U.S. this process is accelerating as well. Here Flip Senator Lindsey Graham is now chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, where he is expected to expedite judicial nominations and crack down on deep state crimes, they say. The previous Senate, while ostensibly Republican-dominated, was blocking the appointments of new judges and prosecutors and thus delaying the long-awaited arrests in the U.S. Furthermore, the new chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, Chuck Grassley, is poised to crack down on Wall Street fraud, crimes, and corruption, they say. The Hazarian Mafia, losing power in Washington, D.C., is making futile attempts to prevent further prosecution by attacking California with directed energy weapons, or DEWs. See the definition below from a Global Research article, that now appears to have been deleted, but others are available by searching this website. A DEW is a system using a beam of concentrated electromagnetic energy, including but not limited to lasers and high-power microwave systems, or atomic or subatomic particles primarily as a direct means to kill, injure, disable, or temporarily incapacitate people or destroy, damage, or temporarily incapacitate property or materiel. Acoustic weapons use sound across the entire frequency spectrum to kill, injure, disable, or temporarily incapacitate people. Acoustic weapons, although outside the joint definition of DEW, have effects and hazards more similar to DEW than to conventional weapons. There is overwhelming evidence that such weapons are being used against California by the Hazarians. Not only that, whistleblower Deborah Tavares is providing evidence that blames these attacks on the Rothschild family and their company Pacific Gas and Electric. A clear sign of how panicked the Rothschilds and their servants are came when California Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell threatened to attack American citizens with nuclear weapons if they refused to disarm. What these high-level criminals fail to realize is that they are no longer operating in secret or with impunity. In particular, we are hearing that the French branch of this family is being held responsible for many of these crimes. This means roles have now been reversed and they are now the ones under threat. This can be seen in the desperate calls from their French slave President Emmanuel Macron for a European army, as we mentioned last week, to protect the EU from China, Russia, and the US. What he really meant was to protect the Rothschilds and their slave regimes such as Germany and France from the anger of the world. First, though, Macron needs to save himself from the French people. Last week over 280,000 motorists blocked roads at over 2,000 locations in France in a protest against his regime. These protests were supported by 73% of the French population. With David de Rothschild hiding from French police, Alexander Guy de Rothschild is now the official head of the French Rothschild branch of the family. His photo can be seen here. Japanese right-wing sources say he is married to the daughter of Japanese Finance Minister Taro Aso and that the wedding took place at the castle seen in the link here. The fact that Japan's water resources are being sold at a deep discount to the French water companies has led to the conclusion that Aso and his French in-laws are responsible, the Japanese right-wingers say. We can also report that the French branch of the Rothschilds contacted this writer immediately after they carried out the March 11, 2011 Fukushima mass murder attack on Japan to issue further threats to attack Tokyo itself. It was also the French Rothschilds who financed anti-Japanese riots in China a few years back, Asian secret society sources say. The French Rothschild control over Japan will end soon, though, multiple sources say. The Iwasaki family, who control the Mitsubishi Group that in turn controls the regime of Shinzo Abe, is suing for peace, White Dragon Society sources say. The Japanese industrialists are asking for White Dragon Society protection for the rollout of cold fusion and other paradigm-changing technology that has been hitherto suppressed by the Hazarian mob, the sources say. Protection has been offered and a demonstration of this technology is being arranged, they say. The White Dragon Society will be also meeting with representatives of Asian secret societies this week to discuss the future of Japan and the Abe regime, among other things, White Dragon Society sources say. Also, Asian and Western secret societies are continuing preparations for setting up and financing a Western future planning agency. The agency would work in harmony with the massive Chinese One Belt One Road development project. An agreement on this issue is expected to help ease the big power friction now taking place in public between the US and China, according to sources close to the negotiations. As mentioned last week, a basic agreement to save the planet has already been reached, so now it is time to make concrete plans. This is expected to take a big amount of time, though, so please be patient. Turning around a planet is like turning around a supertanker in mid-ocean. It means that even if a decision has been made to change course, so much momentum has been built up that things must proceed slowly in order to avoid tipping the ship. Thanks for listening and watching. Activate the notification bell. Subscribe to the YouTube channel UFOs WLG and